And we welcome you back to America's Forum. I'm J.D. Hayworth.
And I'm John Bachman. Thanks for sticking around. We want to talk about the Ukraine real quick and the situation going on right there with all these sanctions and everything. Ukraine has now signed a trade pact with the EU as Russia finalized its annexation of Crimea today. The deal signed in Brussels, Belgium, the European deal. It shows the EU's solidarity with Ukraine. The move comes one day after the EU and the United States imposed new sanctions on Russian lawmakers and businessmen. Russia quickly responded with its own list of sanctions against U.S. lawmakers and other officials as well. Joining us right now to talk about the situation with sanctions and aid for Ukraine is Congressman Doug Collins of Georgia.
And Doug, we sure thank you for taking time to be with us on America's Forum today. Doug, yesterday, our president slapped more sanctions on the Russian Federation, specifically on some of Vladimir Putin's associates. Is this having any sort of real impact?
Well, again, this is, y'all hit on it. This is just another problem with a president who absolutely lacks a foreign policy, always reacting to the world, and basically I think it doesn't have the effect that he's intended. I mean, it looks good. He can do a soundbite for it. But when you constantly are going forward in the world from what many of us believe, and we want to see our president act strongly. However, this president just seems to not do that. You know, we need to be attacking what really hurts. And if we want to attack what really hurts, let's get at the energy sector coming out of Russia, because that's their real economic engine. We start attacking there, I think Putin's at least got to take a step back and say, hey, maybe for real, this president's actually for real when he wants to do something.
Well, Congressman, the president did not talk about energy during that press conference yesterday, at least not the part that I saw. It was very short. But he did take the time to kind of give a jab to Congress, urging the House specifically to pass this package, I think, which has passed the Senate Foreign Relations Committee at this point. But if you can explain to us as briefly as possible what the deal is with the IMF and the Pentagon money.
Well, I think those are the monies that we're looking at right now that is that have to do with projects and things that need to come about. I think it's sort of interesting to me that the president needles us about the Senate bills and other things when we've been sending issues, not just dealing with this area, but also other parts of the world, and dealing with sanctions. I'm glad he's come around to the idea that sanctions work, but at this point in time, we just need to make sure whether it be IMF money, Pentagon money, that those monies that are off and working together to put together a sanctions package and also to put together an aid package for Ukraine that actually helps them be stable in their own area as well.
Now, Doug, you touched on energy again, and it echoes some of the arguments we've heard from your colleagues, specifically the chairman of the Foreign Affairs Committee on which you serve, Chairman Ed Royce, talking about the fact that, look, America has all this natural gas. We ought to be taking the fight to the Russians, so to speak, getting the plants built, getting our ships filled with liquefied natural gas and selling it in the Ukraine. But of course, there is a time lag involved here. And so the administration and others say, well, that's something on down the road. How do you address that inevitable delay because we just haven't gotten that industry up to speed in terms of making our natural gas available in Eastern Europe?
Well, I think that's a great question. It's a natural progression. It's something we should have been doing all along. Instead of seemingly this administration taking its cues from Putin when, in doing what they would like, and when we, whether it be missile defense or other areas, we've known this situation has been developing a long time. We've watched it when they turned off the gas before. We should have been working ahead. So now, yes, there's going to be an inevitable lag time in trying to get this up, but there are other things that we can begin to do, like directly to their funding, directly to their energy sources. But the other thing is, if we don't start now building up our resources so we can export this, then we're just talking more time down the road, and that's just simply not a good strategy.
Now, Doug, I want to go to another topic, something that could happen conceivably in short order. Of course, the president, with his vaunted reset button of a couple of years ago, decided not to install missiles in Poland and other new Eastern European allies, again, part of that infamous reset of American foreign policy with the Russians. Do you expect, or would you publicly call on the president, as we're talking here, to get to the Polish government and other friendly governments in that region of the world and install the missiles that America unilaterally decided not to install?
Well, I don't think it would be a step forward in any direction. I was not in favor when the president unilaterally decided to come out of it. In fact, to be honest, I think what he did was he misread the situation, as he has often done in foreign policy, whether it be on Iran or Syria or other places. He went ahead and took the cue from, if I was nice to Putin, Putin will be nice to me. I think the world history has shown that those are not the way you deal with folks who are in a situation, especially what perceives to be a megalomaniac like Putin, who just simply wants to go back to a world that doesn't exist. I think we definitely need to get involved with those countries that are friendly to us and put that marker down to say, this is where we're going to stand, and we're going to confront you at every turn.
Now, Congressman, I want to ask you real quickly. There was some news out of Russia today. The Foreign Minister, Sergei Lavrov, says he assured John Kerry and the U.S. that those troops that are massing now on the border with Ukraine in western Russia and eastern Ukraine on the border there are not going to invade the country. Is there any credibility at all to what Foreign Minister Lavrov had to say?
It's like, are you kidding me? I mean, this was building up on the Crimean border, and all of a sudden they just decided to disregard international norms and go in. At this point in time, there is nothing in dealing with troops or troop movements that I would trust from the Soviet Union. They have not been forthcoming. They've hidden an agenda, and this is something that if we take this and say, well, see, they're trying to be nice, I think we're just being, we're putting ourselves in a terrible position. And I think Western Europe as well. And I think it's not a matter of what they say, it's what they do.
Doug,
and that's what we got to do.
Doug, as a member of Congress, you measure the response of your constituents and indeed see what happens nationwide. That's one of the byproducts of serving a 2-year term and facing the voters every 2 years. It seems that the distaste for American military involvement is widespread and very strong. With that in mind, what you're telling us today is there are steps that can be taken short of the introduction of military force that can still be effective and can still strike back at the Russian Federation, right?
Oh, definitely. I mean, think about this. The Cold War lasted for the better part of 50 years. I mean, when we go back to what was really what we say is the absolute Cold War, and U.S. and Soviets had many times in which we disagreed. We had issues in which we pushed back, they pushed back, and without engagement of combat forces. We can do these things, but however, I think the problem is right now is I think the Soviet Union, or the old Soviet Union, Russia, is actually have that old mindset of the Soviet Union and say that America's not going to stop us here. And I think they look to Syria, they look to Iran, they look to really the equivocation of this administration to say we're going to do what we want, which puts us in a very hard bind when it comes to military and these non-military actions. So I think what we've got to do is we've got to start building up those non-military discretion in what we do, from sanctions to other areas of helping friends and allies, so that we can have a firm response to what is just a naked form of aggression here.
All right, Congressman, thanks for calling in. We appreciate it. Great to talk with you, and we'll have you back very soon. The Congressman mentioning this, we've heard it so many times. Dick Morris, many of our guests here, talking about the importance of energy and all of this and getting those natural gas plants approved.
And also the whole notion of ways short of military involvement to act as a counterbalance to the neo-Soviet Union, we might call it, the Russian Federation. Coming back, is time running out on American exceptionalism, and is our own government to blame? We'll be joined by the author of a new book who says our greatest threat to liberty comes from within. In the meantime, you assess what's going on. Get back to us by social media. Tweet us at Newsmax TV, #America's Forum.
What you don't know about Pope Francis will shock you. Bestseller.